Whilst we wait for Treyarch's next Zombies installment, likely slated for 2024, there's a lot of discussion to be had about what storyline elements that we've seen in Vanguard and Black Ops Cold War will be relevant to this next game, and whilst Vanguard Zombies' gameplay certainly left a lot to be desired and was widely criticised, there was definitely no shortage of lore revelations across the year of its content. Due to the mode being so unpopular, many of these interesting lore tidbits have gone relatively undiscussed. One such event is the topic of today's video, and if you've read the title, I'm sure you probably surmised what it is by now: the reintroduction of the Chaos Story elements in the Dark Aether storyline. The discussion begins with a radio from demonologist Gabriel Kraft on Shi no Numa.
It reminds me of when I studied the writings of Alistair Rhodes, an amateur demonologist and personal hero of mine. Rhodes wrote about different objects of power that he called sentinel artifacts, but I was never able to find out exactly what they were. Nevertheless, if we can find the relic we seek at Shi no Numa, I am quite certain I can use it on Von List and trap Cortifex in that little scepter of his.
The radio is mostly about Vanguard story elements, but at the end squeezes in a reference to Alistair Rhodes and the Sentinel artifacts. For people who don't remember the Chaos storyline or didn't play Black Ops 4 Zombies, let me summarize why both of these are extremely important name drops. The Chaos story was a storyline that ran throughout Black Ops 4 Zombies, but was specifically stated more than once to not be canon to the Aether storyline.
Are the two stories connected in any way? Is it a clean break?
They are not connected. They're not connected. They're not connected anyway. They are two separate stories completely.
So
no one believes me, by the way. No one believes me. I've said this out now multiple times. I even said it to your camera. I've said it multiple times. They are not connected.
The mechanics of the universes, the magics that controlled them, and the reason for zombie maps between each were very separate. Alistair Rhodes was a central character of the Chaos story, while not one of the playable characters. He was the character that the Chaos crew spent their storyline attempting to rescue. Even though the Chaos storyline was cut short with its cancellation after Ancient Evil, likely due to poor reception, we did get to find out that Alistair had died, as he was turned to stone by Medusa along with his kidnappers. The other mention from the Craft radio is arguably even more important. While mentioning Alistair Rhodes alone could simply be seen as a name reference, the specific naming of Sentinel artifacts in the Dark Aether storyline has incredible implications. These artifacts in the Chaos story were artifacts created to represent various gods. In the Chaos story, we collected the artifacts representing Danu, Ra, Zeus, and Odin, and judging by the existence of Greek gods as well as Medusa, it is very likely these gods actually existed in this storyline. Artifacts that represent connections with very real and very powerful gods sounds very much like the artifacts in Vanguard Zombies and the demons of the Dark Aether story, doesn't it? So it's definitely reasonable to draw a parallel between the two. Whilst in the Chaos story we saw the actual Greek gods, whereas in the Dark Aether story it seems like these Dark Aether demons were simply misinterpreted as being these gods, and the mythologies merging together. I will continue the conversation in a little second, but first of all I have an awesome message to share with you. This video has been kindly sponsored by Stay Out, which is an entirely free-to-play MMORPG with shooter elements, based on the spirit of stalking, an urban exploration, searching and exploring mysterious, abandoned and forgotten by humanity pieces of our planet. Discover a world full of dangers and incredible events which has its own laws and principles. Become one of the stalkers, people living in the romance of the unknown, able to overcome the trials in search of artifacts on the territory of the alienation zone. Take a look beyond the edge of the unknown, where the secrets of nature and deadly dangers await the daredevils at every turn. Survive in harsh conditions where you count every sip of water and every match. Secret laboratories, the life forms of unknown origin, mysterious anomalies and strange artifacts that challenge your knowledge of laws of nature. All of this is contained in the huge world of Stay Out. Recently the game had a big New Year's update, and here are some of the changes. We have End Town, Gingerbread Madness and all New Year's activities are back. Talk to the backers who are in the Gorman Village on the radio tower near the Lubeck Palace of Culture, or in the Radius Village to go to End Town, where this New Year's stalker adventures, old friends and new unexpected turns of history await you. This year the Gingerbread Madness event has got new opportunities. Now elves can come to the aid of the gingerbread monster. To take part in the event, go to the board in End Town, and of course Johnny's new awards await you this year. The zone is getting more dangerous. The further the stalker goes to the zone, the more inhospitable and dangerous the environment becomes. The mutants are angrier and the anomalies are even more fatal. However, whoever answers the zone challenge and survives will be rewarded. In order to operate effectively in the depths of the zone, a stalker needs to acquire advanced skills, improve their equipment and train his personal skill. In the depths of the zone, there is a vast area called Caravan, known for rare artifacts and valuable prey from mutants. Having not lost its number but becoming noticeably stronger and more dangerous, the mutant hogs have now evenly settled in the caravan and roam it all night. Surrounded by their younger relatives, now they are truly able to challenge the most experienced hunters. However, stalkers who know their weaknesses and are able to pierce their thick skin from their weapons will receive a valuable reward and a large amount of combat experience. Check out the update today via the link in the description to explore everything else that has changed and been added, or explore the game for your first time. The name drop of Alistair Rhodes, along with confirmation he is a demonologist, definitely suggests that these names exist for more than just a reference. With Vanguard Zombies confirming the existence of demons in the world of the Dark Aether story, anyone called a demonologist throughout history likely had some level of credence added to their work. Plus, the addition of the detail that he studied the Sentinel artifacts definitely implies that some part of the Chaos story is at least true and canon to this new storyline. However, it is not as likely that the entire storyline of Chaos played out exactly as we played it in Black Ops 4. The Chaos storyline existing parallel to the Dark Aether story is very difficult to imagine, especially because of the parts of both storylines that take place around the same time in the early 1900s. There are many contradictions between both storylines. While the Societe Occult was moving and meeting with Dark Aether creatures people misinterpreted as historical figures or gods, characters in the Chaos story were actually interacting with Greek gods and creatures of legend. This ultimately suggests that the introduction of Chaos was to reuse some concepts and ideas from that storyline in the future of the Dark Aether, but what does that really mean for us? It is very likely that Chaos-related things like a heavier influence from mythology, more magical story elements, prima materia, the Sentinel artifacts and more could show up in a future Treyarch Zombies game. And if so, how would you feel about the introduction of these concepts into the story more prominently in Treyarch's next game? I think this would be a very good thing, because a big critique that people had of the Dark Aether story in Cold War Zombies was that we were just going from facility to facility and the locations were a bit boring, which was the complete opposite of the Chaos storyline, where they relied heavily on mythology to carry the atmosphere of those maps, whilst the atmosphere felt quite lacking in Cold War Zombies. So this could be the way for Treyarch to lean heavily into the mythology yet again. Whilst Cold War Zombies' storyline did use a lot of elements from mythology, they weren't really the forefront of the maps or the stuff that we actually experienced whilst playing them, and they didn't really play a role in the atmosphere, and that could be what we see next game. But with us knowing that Alistair Rhodes perished in the Chaos story, maybe this time in the Dark Aether story he is still alive, but in the Chaos story he was obviously a famous demonologist, but in the Dark Aether story he is just an amateur demonologist, and that could be the contrast between the two. It is of course possible that the Chaos story just existed in the prior multiverse prior to it getting rebooted on Tag the Totem, but now that it has been rebooted, Treyarch might be trying to tie in little things from the Chaos story to the Dark Aether story, whilst it not being the forefront of the storyline and not being the main thing. We might not see any returning characters, for example, but we might just see little storyline elements like I previously discussed that would allow for Treyarch to add a lot of mythology and cool atmospheres to their maps, and that could be awesome. I think the storyline in Cold War Zombies was amazing, but a lot of people felt like it just didn't engage with fans enough due to them feeling like the maps were a bit too repetitive. So with that being said, what do you think of this, and is there anything that you think they should definitely not bring back from the Chaos storyline? What things didn't you like that you don't want to see at all? Personally, I just want to see all of those mythological things. I think Ancient Evil was an awesome map, and with us riding on the horses, that was so cool, and I want to see stuff like that back in the Dark Aether storyline. I mean, we saw stuff like that in the Aether storyline with the dragons on Gorod Krovi and the Apothecans, and we did see even a bit of it in the Dark Aether storyline with weird corrupted things like Order. But if Treyarch lean more heavily in this mythology, that would be awesome. But what do you think they should definitely include from the Chaos storyline in this new Dark Aether storyline? Do you want to see any characters back, or do you just want to see mythological elements? It would be nice to have some sort of conclusion to the Chaos storyline, even if it was just done through comic books or even through intel in the game, because like I said, they could just say that the Chaos storyline existed in the prior multiverse and all of that stuff then just got sent into the Dark Aether on Tag the Totem. But that way we could have intel or something, giving some sort of closure to the Chaos story. Because according to Jason Blundell, that entire storyline was written out, they just never got to release it, so surely they can just release it via intel or, like I said, a comic or some sort of out-of-game material. And if everything from Chaos did get sent into the Dark Aether, it then gives them the opportunity to, of course, bring little tidbits back from the Chaos storyline through the Dark Aether, potentially. Although, I don't think that's really going to happen. I think they're just going to reference little things from the Chaos storyline like they have done with this radio from Craft. And that way it doesn't get overly confusing where they try and incorporate too much from the Chaos storyline in this new story, but there's just little inspirations that they take from the Chaos story that they loved, because Treyarch, I'm sure, are definitely proud of what they were doing with Chaos and are sad that they didn't get to finish that storyline due to poor reception. Anyways, that's pretty much everything I have to talk about in this video. Let me know any further thoughts in the comments down below. Thank you for watching the video, and make sure to subscribe if you're not here for the latest and greatest Call of Duty news and information. So anyways, thank you for watching, and bye.